I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 40, and let's focus on verses 2 and 3. Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard in the prison where Joseph was confined. Genesis 40, verses 2 and 3. So the beginning of Genesis 39, Joseph rose to become the head of Potiphar's household. And what was Potiphar's title? Potiphar was the captain of Pharaoh's guard. So in the middle of that chapter, chapter 39, it details a false sexual harassment accusation landing Joseph in prison. But by the end of chapter 39, Joseph rises again to a position of leadership. He's still in prison, but he's a leader nonetheless, because leaders got to lead. Having said all that, the beginning of chapter 40 indicates that the prison where Joseph was held was Potiphar's own home, the house of the captain of the guard. Now you think about that. If somebody made a pass at my wife, the last thing that I would want to do is keep him in the basement of my home, if I really believed it. Now compound that with the knowledge that Joseph's former boss was the captain of the guard. It would have been nothing for Potiphar to kill Joseph, and yet he allowed Joseph to stay and then to rise to a position of authority. So what should we say about Potiphar's rationale? I think the obvious answer is that God's providence. It protected, it preserved, it prospered Joseph. But what would Potiphar's logic have been? What is going on in his mind, even though the Lord is using those decisions in order to do all these things for Joseph? What is going through Potiphar's mind? Well, there's a lot of answers, a lot of speculation. Maybe, the Bible doesn't say, maybe Potiphar needed a sharp man running his prison, no matter how soiled that his character may have been. Perhaps Potiphar knew that his wife was unfaithful from the very beginning, but he didn't want to publicly accuse Joseph because then it would expose his wife. Then it would expose him. That would cause a scandal, and it might even damage his reputation or his life. It could have been that Joseph simply had charisma and an indispensable way with money. God could have used a myriad of factors which went on in Potiphar's mind in order to keep Joseph in Potiphar's home. And that's exactly what the Lord did. God had redemption plans for his people Israel. And it was obvious that Joseph was a leadership triple threat. What do I mean? He had great looks, he had shrewd stewardship skills, and these are gifts of the biblical prophecy and interpretation. So those were all gifts from God, which have in some circumstances led Joseph into trouble. But Joseph may have even cursed these gifts. Why do I have to be so good looking? I know I say that every day. And then my wife laughs. I don't know why. I'm just joking. Why do I have to be so good looking? Why do I have to be good with money? Why do I have to be able to see things spiritually before they actually happen? He might have cursed them. It only gets me into trouble. My brothers hate me. Now this woman is accusing me of rape, and that's not true. And then now I'm here in this prison. No. Since they were from the Lord, they ultimately had a kingdom purpose. And Joseph discovered that he needed all of those things. Joseph needed to be a slave so that he could prove himself a good steward in Potiphar's home. He needed to be attractive so that he could be accused and imprisoned. And he needed to be imprisoned so that he could interpret dreams. And then the list goes on. You don't see it from this perspective looking forward. You always see it in the end looking backward. Oh, it's what we call God's love in hindsight. Our directive is not to figure out God's plan as it's going down, but rather to look at His Word and to honor His name in all circumstances in which He places us. And then we are to trust His leading. Remember Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord, and depart from evil. It shall be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. Every step of our journeys is a destination of sorts, and yet God leads us onward. Wherever God led, Joseph glorified the Lord, regardless of the circumstances. So don't waste your time focusing on arriving. How about you just enjoy the Lord through the journey? Find the joy in the journey of trusting God, because He is with you. He knows everything you're going through. He has the power to effect change, and He has the wisdom to know when and how. And He has an unchanging, holy character. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Check us out at groundworksministries.com.